No, you should not do a content phase for your MCAT. Doesn't matter if you're a non-traditional applicant, you've been out of school 4 years, 5 years, or if you've never taken the prerequisite courses for the MCAT. And by the way, there are no prerequisite courses. There are just some courses that help you understand the material on the MCAT. But it doesn't matter. You can learn any of these facts while you're doing and reviewing practice questions. Let me prove to you with a thought experiment why a content phase is not a good idea. Imagine that you have two people who are practicing for a boxing match. They're both novices. The first fighter spends a month in the library, memorizing every technique that Muhammad Ali ever did in the ring. The second person gets into the ring for an hour every single day and practices. Who do you think is going to win? I've been asking my clients this thought experiment for 10 years, and every single time they say, well, it's the guy who gets into the ring. My question is, why don't you get into the ring with the MCAT? Now remember, that guy in the ring is still going to learn those techniques, but he's going to acquire them in context. He's going to make a mistake, get hit, and have a really strong reason to learn that technique and understand why the technique matters and when and how to implement it. On the MCAT, this means strategy. This means how do you eliminate answer choices? How do you derive the meaning of an oddly phrased question? How do you keep track of the main ideas of paragraphs and organize them? How do you know what information is extraneous in the paragraph, in the passage? All of these things you cannot memorize. You will learn them in context as you practice. Now you might say, but if you don't know the content at all, how do you even try? When you really don't know the content, you practice deduction. You practice reading in context and trying to understand, are there any clues here that can help me inform the probability of an answer being right? That is a critical skill that top scoring MCAT clients have. So the earlier you start practicing, the more practice you have on that skill. So where do you acquire the content? As you're doing and reviewing the practice questions, you'll realize there were some areas where you just didn't have a definition, or you didn't know how to do a calculation. That's the equivalent of getting punched in the head when you're boxing. You will be really hungry to understand how to avoid that. You'll also understand the exact circumstance and context in which that information is needed. You'll understand the scope of detail you need, and you won't go into all of this granular detail about a bunch of stuff that are peripheral to the information you actually need. In that way, it makes your content acquisition so much more efficient because it scaffolds it and directs it. And as you go through cycles of that doing and reviewing practice questions and acquiring content as needed, you wind up learning all the content you need and a lot less of the content that you don't, more efficiently than someone who did a dedicated content phase. And this is true no matter whether you are currently in undergrad, a non-traditional student, whatever. Make sure you check out the rest of my MCAT coaching playlist at the top of my page, where I give you all the tips and tricks that I've been giving my top scoring clients for a decade. And of course, you can always reach out directly if you want to set up a consult to optimize your study schedule. Now get practicing. You've got this.